We're live. Why don't you say something? That's okay. Which camera? This way? This way. This way's easier. I'm gonna look this way. Hey, what's going on? It's Ray Powers. How you doing? Oh, it's a happy Thursday evening. It's about 7 o'clock here on the Eastern Seaboard in the U.S. We're going to be on the air at 8 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. The Ray Powers Hour. Start of the 4-day weekend happens right here. Special guest tonight calling in from Nashville, Tennessee. Zombie Garden Club's Johnny Douglas of Bongo Boy Records. We're giving away a power pack tonight. We have a fresh cut from Naomi K. And you know what? We have a free chat room. That's right. It gets a little crazy in there. NewVisionsRadio.com. Come down the page, open it up, and chat with us. I'll be in there live with you guys in between the other festivities. So don't forget, in just about an hour or so, you'll want to join us. If you don't, you'll be regretting it and saying I shoulda, woulda, coulda, and then it's all over. Then it's just the archives. But do yourself a favor. Do us a favor. Join us. We're having too much fun.
Rising from the swamps of the Meadowlands, in the shadow of New York City, it's the Ray Powers Hour!
This is the Ray Powers Hour. I am back on the line with Johnny Douglas, calling from Nashville, Tennessee. Johnny Douglas, of course, of Zombie Garden Club. Johnny, thanks so much for joining me. How you doing tonight?
I'm good, Ray. Nice to be here.
Now, you're calling me from Nashville. Have you always been in Nashville? And if not, where are you originally from?
I'm originally from Toronto, Canada, and then I lived in L.A. for some time, and then I moved back to Toronto, and then I ended up here. When I first moved here, I was signed as a staff songwriter to Sony Publishing and then EMI. And then I wrote for Orbison after that. So for a number of years, I was a staff songwriter and producing different acts and so on for those companies.
Wow. That's a dream come true for most people, and that would be fine to cap it there. And you decided to just build an entire career on top of that. That's amazing stuff.
Well, it's the difference between doing something for someone else and then doing it for yourself, where you get to do it the way you want to do it. When you're writing for other people, obviously you're sort of writing to what works for them. And then when you just drop all that and say, now what do I want to do the way I want to do it, then that's kind of liberating. I mean, I was lucky in that people like Greg Allman recorded my songs, and a number of people did. And that was always fun and gratifying to have somebody that you respect and like do your song, but it's still a little bit different than getting to do it the way you want to do it yourself.
Right. So then you start off as a staff writer, and you definitely, from just judging from the names of the people you've worked with, you obviously fulfilled that dream. And then you go on to form or found Zombie Garden Club, which is, of course, your creation, your group, and your identity as far as a band persona, I'll call it. What was the turning point? What made you decide, I want to do a Zombie Garden Club record?
Well, the way it kind of happened was I sort of backed into it without any plan, which is my usual way of working. I work with a company in L.A. that pitches my songs to film and TV. And I've also done the music for a number of documentaries. I did one last year on Sheryl Crow, and I've done them on Mamas and Papas, Love and Spoonful, Johnny Cash, a number of different documentaries. So, but anyway, this company in L.A. I have a studio in my house, to digress. I have a studio at home where I have all my stuff and make all my music. And there was a company out there pitching my stuff. And one of the styles of music that I really like to do is sort of a very raw garage band, fuzz tone, tremolo, vintage amps, that kind of retro 60s sound. I mean, I love that stuff. So I was sending out a lot of that stuff, and we were getting a lot of placements on TV shows. Just a bunch of TV shows were using it. And so the girl at the company out there said, you should kind of put this together in some kind of package, because people are buying it and playing it and using it. You should think about that. And I kind of dragged my feet thinking,
Right.
Eventually, I did. I put a package together, and I had a bunch of songs that had been placed on TV, and I kind of put them all together and shot a couple of videos and did that and put it out there to a few different people. And Monique and Gar at Bongo Boy heard it and liked it and said, "We'd like to put this out." Of course, there was no actual band. There was just me doing everything. But they said, we like this. We think other people might like it. Let's throw it out there and see if it sticks anywhere. So that's kind of what we did. And I don't really know why I didn't do it under my own name, other than, to me, it's more fun to have a band name. And the reason I play everything is just kind of not because I demand that I play everything, but it's just that I'm here in my studio working on things, and, well, it needs a guitar part, it needs bass, needs keys, needs drums, I'll just go ahead and do it. And that's, I think a lot of one-man band kind of guys do that just because, well, let's just get this done.
Of course.
And so that's kind of how it all happened.
Yeah, by the time you teach it to somebody, you could have done it 5 times already.
I might as well just go ahead and do it, yeah. Exactly. And really, it's fun. I love playing with bands. That's my favorite thing in the world, but I end up doing it myself just because, again, I'm here in my studio every day working on different things, and I've been doing it for a while, and it's just kind of, that's how it gets done.
And, I mean, first of all, just to back it up, isn't it awesome to now have a studio in your house and not, like, have to have the entire basement dug out? I mean, you could just put a studio the size of, a fifth of what we used to use. And you could just
totally, yeah.
You could use the corner of a bedroom and just, there it is. There's my studio, and it's amazing.
Yeah,
and that's the good part of technology.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, when I first started being in bands, we'd be in these studios that were, it's costing us an arm and a leg per hour, and you're watching the clock and you're sweating bullets with how much money is going down the drain and all this kind of stuff. And then when you're being signed to record labels, they're saying, well, you owe us,
right,
gazillions of dollars before you sold any units, and all that kind of stuff kind of goes away when you have your own facility. You can, if something isn't working, you can put it away and come back to it the next day, and it doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, back 25 years ago, you already shelled out $1,200, and the engineer's still getting levels on the kick drum, and you're going, my God, you're looking for a window to jump out of.
And another thing, that's very true, and another aspect of it was that you've got your sound, and then by the time that sound gets translated through an engineer and a producer, what comes out the other end may be not at all what you either wanted or went in there with, because they may not be on the same page as you. Even though they may be good at something, it may not be good at exactly what you're going for. And that happened to me all the time,
sure,
to where the demo would be better than the record, or
right,
at least closer to what I wanted. So I don't have that excuse anymore. Now I'm the engineer and the producer, and however bad it sounds, it's all on me.
You're accountable, exactly, okay, good or bad.
Yeah.
This is the Ray Powers Hour. I'm on the line with Johnny Douglas of Zombie Garden Club. Now, we talked about the garage sound of the 60s, and in most of these songs, that sound is prevalent, and it's obvious that the influence was heavy. And then you have this beautiful single, Calling Andromeda, and we've played this on the show. That's been my fresh cut, and it's being played on New Visions Radio, and it's a 180. It's a beautiful pop song, and it's like, wow, it's almost like someone has to tell you it's the same group, or it's the same person. You're a professional songwriter. You've done this for years and years. Even so, how do you just, put yourself in the mindset to say, let me just slam on the brakes and let me just do this? I think it's fantastic. Talk about that if you can.
Well, thanks. It's never premeditated for me, and it's just kind of what comes out that day. I do love the garage band thing. I mean, I love the Standells and the Blues Magoos and that whole era of the Trogs, and then into Yardbirds and early Stones and Pretty Things and all that stuff. Now, I love that stuff, but I also love that era of mid to late Beatles and that the more melodic thing that developed into. And the thing with Calling Andromeda was I've always had a soft spot for that, sort of using space as a metaphor. I mean, Bowie did it, and Lennon did it, and Across the Universe and Major Tom and all that stuff. It's I just like that idea that this sort of conveys the alienation or the isolation that we can all feel at times. And so that's kind of where that particular song came from. And stylistically, I guess I just picked up an acoustic guitar, and that kind of came out. I never turned the fuzz tone on that day, so that's kind of how that happened.
There you go. Every 6 months, someone should take away your pedals and just say, here's an acoustic, or here's a 12-string. Write a song.
It's true.
Well, hey, we teased them. Let's play Calling Andromeda, and I'll tell you what. I'll let you be the DJ. I'll let you introduce this one. It's all yours. Take the mic, Johnny.
Hi, this is Johnny from Zombie Garden Club, and here's a song called Calling Andromeda. I hope you like it.
New Visions Radio, this is the Ray Powers Hour. That was Calling Andromeda by Zombie Garden Club. And I have the man responsible for Zombie Garden Club, Johnny Douglas, calling in, joining us from Nashville, Tennessee. And that's been the theme. I mean, go figure. We've, people from Nashville making music. Who knew?
Who knew it was happening?
That's a beautiful song, and it's been one of my favorite songs. I'm not just saying this because you're on the line. Serious. Top 5 songs. Ray. And I've been playing it even when I'm not making, new shows and I'm not building playlists. It's on my, I almost said iPod. I'm dating myself. I still do have an old school iPod, but I've, it's on my phone now. But great song. And it's one of the reasons I chased this down is because I wanted to know who wrote the song, and I wanted just to have the song on my show, and I get to play it all the time. It's a win-win for me. It's a win-win for all of us, I think.
It is for me. I mean, I appreciate it. It's really gratifying to come up with something and then have it go out there and have someone like you respond to it that way. It's great.
Well, it's people are enjoying it, and I mean, what better feeling? You would know as a songwriter, what better feeling when people are enjoying something you created? Yeah.
I mean, it's really gratifying, especially in my situation, because I have a studio at home. I spend a lot of time in here with a room full of guitars and keyboards and various things, looking at a computer screen, recording. So for something to go out there and get a response, it's like, oh yeah, that is what it's actually about, is communicating.
Sure.
Whereas, I spend a lot of time just working on stuff myself, and it's just nice to get that feedback.
Now, we talked about going into the studio in the old days and having to have your stuff together and being prepared because the engineer, you're on the clock and you're in this guy's studio. Is there any backlash? Do you find yourself ever procrastinating? Is it harder in some ways to work at home because I have all the time in the world, I can always do this? Are there distractions? Does that play in at all? I mean, you're probably a lot more industrious than most people who have home studios, but even so, I mean, are there ebbs and flows? Do you sometimes find yourself a little more susceptible to distractions because there is no clock running?
Yeah, that is, anybody working from home in any business, I think, probably has that same thing. I mean, you're home. You can always turn the TV on and go down and have another cup of coffee. There are other things you can be doing other than working. But for me, fortunately, I mean, I love making music, but it's most of all I've ever really done. Right. So coming into the studio every day, I look forward to it, and at the end of 8 or 10 hours, I'm ready to come up for air usually. But yeah, there's nothing I would rather be doing. I would say though that just looking back at a time when I used to go in studios, like you were talking about, with engineers and producers and other players, there is an energy to that, and there's the collaborative thing of working with other guys and working out parts, and there's an energy and there's a fun to it that it's just a different thing than working by yourself.
Right.
Because when you play everything yourself, it's all your ideas, and you're always trying to come up with something new. But when you're playing with other players that you really click with, it's great because they're coming up with stuff that you wouldn't have thought of. And if you're all on the same page stylistically and it's really working, it's just a fun thing because it's the old cliche of the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Everything just adds up to something that no member could have done. I mean, the Beatles are the best example.
Sure.
Their solo stuff is great, but nothing compared to what the Beatles did. I mean, it's just genius. So that's the combination of personalities that makes something happen that wouldn't happen otherwise.
Yeah, there's a spontaneity there that you just can't create. You can't manufacture it. It's a magic. I agree.
Yeah. And I mean, I do my best to try to make what I do sound like a band and have a vibe to it. But it's something you have to work at more when you're doing it all by yourself. When you're with a bunch of guys that you're all friends with and you go and have a beer afterwards, it just kind of happens naturally.
Sure. Well, I mean, I've been a pro at this for 30 years, and I had no idea it was just one person. I was told that it was a band.
You can fool some of the people some of the time.
You can usually fool me all the time, but that's a whole different... I've got my reasons. I used to be a blonde back when I had hair. But
that would explain it then.
There you go. Now, here's a question, and you can be honest, because I've been guilty of this many times. Being that you're proficient at writing hits, let's face it, do you ever start a writing session with the mindset of, I want this to skyrocket to number one? And of course you want that, but is there any part of you that just kind of will tailor a song to not pacify a market or not placate a market, but do you ever find yourself just saying, I'm going to write this song, I'm going to write a hit, I want it to sound this way, or does it just take on a life of its own and sometimes take a left turn you weren't expecting?
It does. And whenever I've tried to do what you just described, it's not much fun.
Right.
If I hear something on the radio and think, you can be inspired by something and want to run home and write something, not to clone it or copy it, but just because it gets you excited about writing. But if I ever think I want to write something like that, whenever I try, it's like, God, this is no fun. And I don't really think that's where the best stuff comes from. I don't think that Lennon McCartney sat down and did that. The songs come out of the joy and the energy of the moment. Whenever I've tried to get clinical about it, and that's, when you're signed as a staff songwriter, you're kind of encouraged to do what you just described.
Right, that's why
they want songs that make money.
Of course.
And that means being on the radio.
There's a formula.
Especially here in Nashville, they want country songs that make money. And there's nothing wrong with those songs. I'm just not really interested in them. So I was really always kind of a square peg when it came to publishing deals here, because I never really wanted to write what they wanted to hear. And so I would get cuts by, again, Greg Allman or someone like that, and they would say, okay, that's great, but we really want a Kenny Chesney song. Right. Nothing against Kenny Chesney, it's just not my cup of tea. So there was always a little bit of, we were on slightly different planets a certain amount of time.
Right, and nowadays, it's more formulaic than ever, it's more pop than ever, it's just so streamlined what they'll play on commercial radio. It's just this,
and it's so limited. I mean, Sure. It's just it's just so limited. It's the girl dance pop thing and some urban stuff. But I mean, if you don't, it's hard to hear a guitar on the radio these days. On pop radio, there's just not much, going on that I pay much attention to. That's the dilemma these days for certainly rock and roll bands, is how do you get heard? Radio's not really a part of the equation much anymore as far as terrestrial radio. That's why that we really depend on guys like you to help get what we're doing out there.
Well, and I appreciate that, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this, because it's just that thinking. I released a single 3 years ago, and I had a groundswell in places like Pittsburgh and Nashville, and people were calling in by the hundreds and thousands. I encouraged them, of course, but they'd email the station, they would browbeat the station, and I swear, as I'm sitting here talking to you, the program director called my manager and asked her to have my fans back off and stop bullying the station. I kid you not. The way people used to get record deals way back when, Joan Jett's fans,
right? Absolutely,
taking over and just blowing up the phone lines. That's now considered bullying. Right. I think we've hit the height of political correctness, and it's just become a parody in itself. It's parody proof. I mean, we all know the deal. You're not getting on commercial radio if you're not part of this tiny little club who's been bought and paid for 3 years ago. We know this.
Right.
I feel bad for the naive artist who doesn't know this, and they're beating their head against the wall to get on commercial radio. The upside to that, I think, is that commercial radio is really seeing its last days. I mean, I could be wrong about that, but I'm seeing more and more people just, the worst thing in the world, the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. And that's what I'm seeing now.
Yeah. Well, I think it's shrunk to a core of it's for kids.
Right.
It's for teenagers, teenage girls.
It's excessive.
I mean, it's just they mark that's who it is. It's all Dr. Luke and Max Martin and those guys, and those guys are smart. I mean, they have figured it out. They've got that. What if it's Taylor Swift or Ariana Grande or whoever they're producing, they've got it down. They know the sounds, they know the way to write, they know the arrangements,
Sure.
the structures. They have got it down. But that's what it is. It's just that's what it is, and there's just very little room for the ton of other music that comes out every day to get heard.
And you're missing out on 95% of this fantastic stuff that's out there that just sits there, as you said. It'll go unheard without internet stations, and I'll even say XM and satellite, fine. But, this is a growing market. It's the fastest growing medium. And, thank God for it. Thank God I have the opportunity to do this. And thank God for the scores of artists to now have a place to be heard. And, with labels like Bongo Boy, labels like Mad Hands, stations like New Visions and all the other stations that play this stuff, it's high time. It's 2016. You should have choices, let's face it.
Yeah. Well, it's thanks to guys like you that people do, because otherwise they would just be listening to Taylor Swift all day long.
Well, I'm happy to be a cog, and I'm happy to be, one of the main, I'll say, instigators. Why not? I mean, let's facilitate, let's exploit it, and let's take it to a whole new level. Now, I have a question for you. This might be a little tough. If you could record or perform with anyone, living or dead, who would it be?
It would have to be John Lennon. It would just have to be. No matter what mood he was in that day, no matter how he treated me, it would just have to be him. It would just have to be.
And you have that tolerance.
Or Harrison, or George Harrison, or I guess, because those guys, for me, I guess I'm one of those guys. It's like there's the Beatles and there's everybody else.
That's true.
Their stuff is just so off the chart for me. It's just so brilliant that if I could soak up a tiny bit of anything, I would love to be in a room with them. I was actually in a room with Ringo years ago.
Right.
But I was at a party in L.A. when I lived in L.A. and he was there. I didn't get to meet him, but I breathed the same air.
That's something to be said. That's a feather in a cap. Yeah, and it's good that you have that tolerance set aside, knowing that it could be a hail hell rock and roll situation where you could just tell that Keith Richards was ready to bury Chuck Berry, and
But then everybody knows what Chuck Berry's like.
The gig, yeah.
He's pretty well known. It's not going to be an easy ride.
I've experienced it firsthand. It's to say you've worked with Chuck Berry. That's the reason we do it.
Yeah. But I played with Roy Orbison, and he was just a sweetheart. So there are, you don't have to be that way.
No, of course not. But, he's had a hard life, and let's face it. We all have different backgrounds, and we come from different spots. And, hey, listen, I'm just happy to be alive. I'm happy to be doing what I love, and I could tell you seem to be the same way. So, it's just onward, the way I look at it.
Yeah, I figure if you're if you're paying the bills and getting up every day doing what you love to do, then you're winning. If winning is the point, then that's winning.
Exactly.
At least to that extent.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with the scoreboard. Don't try to fix it. Just enjoy life. As you said, breathe the same air as the stars and just go out and live your dream. It seems
one way in which I think that disintegration of the record business has, in some ways, had a silver lining, if you want to think of it that way, is that now there's no hope of getting a hit single. Virtually, there's just so little chance of that happening. There used to be, I used to get record deals or publishing deals. There was a chance you'd pop something and everything could change. Now that chance is so remote that you might as well do what you want. Exactly. You might as well forget about A&R guys and record labels and agents. You might as well just forget about it and do what you love. And that's your best shot anyway, probably. But now it's almost your only shot. Just go ahead and do what you want to do, because it's like when I come to my TV stuff, I've had, I don't know how many songs, lots and lots of songs used on TV shows, and I never know what they're going to take. I never know.
Right.
I mean, I send stuff out, I just never know. And they'll take stuff that I don't think they're going to. And then other things I think, oh, this is some of my best stuff, they don't use. So, again, I just figure your best shot is just to do what you want to do and let the chips fall.
Yeah, it's a shame that, these kids, my daughter will never know what it's like to showcase for an A&R guy at a packed club, because clubs don't pack anymore. And A&R guys don't exist. Labels hardly exist. But as you said, on the flip side, now you can just be yourself, just do whatever you want, and be as out there as you want. The more out there and unique you are, the better your chances, as you said.
Better.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and learn how to record, learn how to get a computer system, and learn how to make your own music.
Well, I think that's where the kids are astute now, is they're more do-it-yourself than ever. And sometimes to a fault. Sometimes it's to a fault, because now they can steal our music before, it's on YouTube, and then 5 seconds later they own it in quotes.
Right.
But yeah, no, it absolutely, it's a DIY world, and it's good in a way. We have more control over our destinies, and you own your masters. And yeah, I mean, you can really, and if you press your own CDs, it's pure profit. No debt to a record label.
If you even need CDs anymore, I kind of feel like CDs are, quickly going the way of the dinosaur. It's like, I don't even know if downloads are happening much anymore. When I was just streaming, it seems like it's becoming
access over ownership. Sure. Well, CDs are good.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody cares about owning music anymore. There's no thing of. I mean, there's a small group that likes to go out and buy vinyl.
Right.
And I'm in that group, but most people just want to kind of have a streaming thing where they have it on and they don't care about owning it.
Right. Well, luckily, I'm 45, so my demographic is women 35 to 60, the last group of people who will actually buy a CD, if for nothing else, a memento, something to sign.
Sure, yeah, it's like a souvenir.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, so if for nothing else, it's here's a picture with some music on it if you ever get around to it. But
right. And I still love vinyl for that reason. I mean, I love the album covers. I just love vinyl. I like to put the needle on and hear the snap, crackles, and pops, and that's fun for me.
Yeah. My favorite is a 45 because, with the wide grooves, I think just nothing sounds better than, a Seaberg jukebox blasting a 45. But sure, as far as doing an album the right way, a full 33, 12-inch, you got the artwork. You don't have to put it on a 2x2, little tile, and you can actually make something of your cover. You can actually explore. And back when we did albums, I mean, so I heard, you'd go in the basement.
Yeah, that's a good point right there. Just having said we love albums, who listens to albums anymore? I mean, really, people listen to one song, and they, in a lot of cases, don't even pay that much attention to who the artist is. It's just they're streaming a certain style of music on Pandora or wherever, Spotify, wherever they are, and it's less about the artist than it is just having a sort of soundtrack to whatever they're doing.
Yeah, you'll thank the Almighty Lord that they gave you 3 minutes of that time, and I agree. Well, Johnny, I could talk to you forever, but it's only an hour show, so
I need to shut up.
Hey, listen, we can talk off the air. You can join the chat room too. We've got an awesome chat room, newvisionsradio.com. Come in and just hang out, and it's a lot of fun. And they don't bite. I don't think they might be biting each other right now, but who knows? I'll have to check on them.
I just want to say thanks again, Ray, and I really appreciate it, and your listeners, and it's the highest compliment that somebody would be interested in playing what I do and listening to it.
Well, it's great stuff, and of course, this is at one point I think it becomes perfunctory, but I think we all know where to go to get your music. But tell them anyway, where can we get Zombie Garden Club?
The album is on Bongo Boy Records. You can go to their website. You can go to Amazon, iTunes. I guess those are the main ones, aren't they? Really, anywhere where it's sold, but certainly Bongo Boy Records is a great place to go. You can order it directly from their website.
You can knock on Johnny's door, and if he doesn't have his headphones on, maybe he'll throw one out the window for you.
Yes, I'll be in the studio. Just keep knocking until I come up for air, and I may be in my underwear, but I'll come to the door and sell you a CD.
He'll have a CD with him. It'll be cool. Johnny, thanks so much. Pleasure and honor. Stop in anytime. and have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
The Ray Powers Hour. New Visions Radio.